either with us or against us. You're either evil or you're good.
All of this is happening, and they're saying we're going to arrest anybody who's got any connections to the Taliban or Al-Qaeda. Then you've got the U.S. government flying 8,000 of the Taliban or Al-Qaeda, the cream, out to Pakistan. You've got the U.S. government founding the Taliban and Al-Qaeda in 1979, building them up to the 1980s for the war against the Soviets. And then Bush is giving all these speeches about how we've got to go after anybody who has connections to bin Laden. No one has connections to the bin Laden family like the Bushes and to Osama himself. In fact, Osama bin Laden was an admitted CIA asset, we believe still is, and his code name, admittedly, was Tim Osmond. In the 1970s, he was in the U.S. with a short hair and no beard. There's been photos out there of him driving around in his Cadillac, hanging out with the CIA. His older brother founded Arbusto Oil with George W. Bush, his first big contract out of college in 1976 in Midland, Texas, while they owned an airport together in Houston. But again, the media, there's been a few articles, Fort Worth Star-Telegram, BBC, but that's it, folks. So we need to look at the motive, we need to look at the history, we need to look at how the president is intimately involved with the bin Ladens. In fact, we've got FBI agents who were ordered by Bush under W199I, a presidential order, several months before 9/11 to back off the bin Laden family, to back off Al-Qaeda in this country. He threatened, Bush did, to arrest FBI agents if they stopped Al-Qaeda. They knew specifically what the hijacking plans were. In fact, FBI agent Robert Wright with David Shippers, the man that impeached Bill Clinton, and Larry Klayman of Judicial Watch gave a press conference last year before the National Press Club. And they said, here's the letter from the Justice Department. We'll be arrested if we tell you what we know about the Bushes and the bin Ladens. But Larry Klayman said this, all I can tell you is the Bushes vacation with the bin Ladens. Bush has taken over the media. In fact, that's one of the offices that some of his people are involved in. Media and Bush merging together, and I'm glad to see a lot of the media is starting to resist that. This is
Dude, are you on crack? The media is owned by the same corporations that own Bush.
That put them into power.
They're all owned by the same people.
And Karl Rove, the head White House guy, has been going around saying, don't put out anything that criticizes the government. Work with us.
Absolutely
and they're involved
untrue.
in
totally that is absolutely untrue. I was in both of those meetings.
Sir, I read his quotes.
I was in both of them.
There was quote. Come on now.
I saw the meeting on C-SPAN.
Don't fight. I was there.
I saw it on C-SPAN. One of the biggest holes in their argument is the fact that they never heard of a plan to fly hijacked jets into landmarks on the East Coast.
We're going to take a closer look tonight at another example of where, despite the conventional wisdom, there were people in the United States who actually were preparing to defend against the kind of attacks which occurred here on 9/11. The North American Aerospace Defense Command, NORAD for short, has been defending the skies over the U.S. and Canada for almost 50 years, 46 to be precise. USA Today reports that in the 2 years before the attacks on September the 11th, NORAD conducted exercises using hijacked airliners as weapons. And one target was the World Trade Center.
We knew he hated us. But there was nobody in our government, at least, and I don't think the prior government, that could envision flying airplanes into buildings on such a massive scale.
But that turns out not to be true. U.S. military planners did envision and practice those very scenarios. As reported by USA Today, the North American Aerospace Defense Command, NORAD, conducted exercises with fighter jets, simulating hijacked planes flown into the World Trade Center in the 2 years before the attacks.
And so then I saw Condoleezza Rice get up on TV and say, we had never thought, we had never heard. Why, that's a ridiculous conspiracy theory to say that.
Pentagon planners also envisioned the attack on the Pentagon 5 months before it happened. According to this April 2001 Pentagon email, Air Force officials wanted a war game, having a terrorist group hijack a commercial airline and fly it into the Pentagon.
The truth is pouring out in the media. You can hardly keep up with it. It's even coming out on Fox TV. Bill O'Reilly went on national TV to say he was wrong. He was wrong. He admitted he was wrong. That's big of him. Most of these people never admit they were mistaken. But the most telling evidence came from President Bush's favorite and chief arms inspector, in Iraq, David Kay, who after spending $500 million of your tax dollars in recent months with 1,500 skilled inspectors, returned home to report to his commander-in-chief, and he said, with further elaboration, he said, quote, "We were wrong," unquote. We were wrong. I remember candidate George W. Bush saying that actions should have consequences, that actions should involve responsibility.
Yeah. We never engage in a rush to judgment. We study things over time. And I said that I wasn't sure about Ralph Nader in earlier segments of this film, but now I'm even more sure, my friends, that he's a tool to give us the illusion of choice. Not only is one of his former top lawyers and campaign managers a Skull and Bones member, but now we learn that Mr. Nader's book was published by Fox Television, and he's been all over Fox promoting it. Now, again, I'm not saying that, oh, this is some plan to get Bush elected, because we know that Nader takes votes away from Kerry, but it's just an added level of this Byzantine, Machiavellian subterfuge that we should all be conscious of. Mr. Nader, who are you really working for?
The war on terrorism, particularly in its homeland defense manifestation, is a thin cover for the war on dissent.
A lot of prominent individuals have come out against the war. And they're not all what you'd call leftists. Mel Gibson has come out against the Iraq war. He said that it's wrong, that it's unconscionable, that it's a crime, that it's not America's place. And you know, Mel Gibson is just in line with George Washington, who said, don't get involved in foreign entanglements. Don't get involved in imperialism that was the norm at his time in the world, and is still the norm today, just more sophisticated, more veiled.
Power is a gift we have to utilize within ourselves for others in the best way possible. The paradigm of power is the highest standard of power, and that simply is giving.
For 50 years under both parties, our government has been supporting brutal dictators who suppress their workers and their presence. Why don't we have a war on global infectious diseases that are taking millions of innocent lives and are coming to this country in drug-resistant strains?
This is what it's all about, coming out here against tyranny, not as liberals or conservatives, but just as human beings that love freedom and are standing up against the establishment and saying, we are not your slaves! Throughout history, there's different types of power, and there's powerful people that are powerful because they do good things, and they do it for the right reasons. Why is it, though, really dark, evil, wicked people who are sadistic and enjoy doing bad things to populations, enjoy mutating populations spiritually, physically, financially, why do those type of individuals normally get into power, and then once they have power, no one's challenging them, they increase the murder, the slaughter? How do we stop? Well, number one, why do we see that happen, or do you agree? And then number two, how do we stop that?
A lot of the people who are under the power of the tyrants are like sheep. They know nothing else. They have no role models. This is from generation to generation to generation, and they come with generational curses, and they come from the spirits of evil, and there's 14 of them that are listed in the Bible. And when you have these spirits of evil working with you, within you, around you, and you have the spirits of evil working in the leaders and in the politicians and in the generals, working with them, you have nothing but evil. Nothing but evil. And the most endangered species is dedicated leaders.
I mean, good leaders.
I mean, dedicated leaders in the right way, in the good way.
You have to limit government power and the intrusiveness of government and take away the need for the money that they come after us for.
We're seeing a lot of lying by the Attorney General. Comments about the new Victory Act, Patriot Act 2, and the lying.
Well, you know, I pointed out in my speech just a little while ago that he had a beautiful quote when he was a senator. I mean, they flip-flop and they deceive. I don't think he would admit that he was doing any lying, but he now serves a different master. He serves the administration, and if they say this is what you're going to do, he goes along with it. So it's just total inconsistency. That's why we need people in government that are willing to stand up for their beliefs and explain what they believe in.